Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brandon Cropper. I'm going to be opening a private school in St. George, Utah in the fall of 2007. It's going to have no religious affiliation. It's going to be a full-day academic curriculum. We're accepting 4, 5, and 6-year-olds for the first year of operation, and most likely we won't be accepting any older applicants even in coming years. And we plan to have a 10-year program. So each year we will expand until we have the 10-year program. So if a child starts at the age of 4, he'll finish at 14, 6 will finish at 16, and so on. And I anticipate that at the end of this 10-year program, the end of this 10-year education, the child will be ready for college. So at the age of 16 if he starts at 6. Now, if you're skeptical about that, let me just tell you about my inspiration in starting the school, why I decided to start this school. It turns out, if you study our education system in the United States, it's in a really, really bad situation. The state education system is, and the private education system is not much better off, because their main competition is the state education system. So, it turns out that this education system actually, from kindergarten through graduate school in the United States of America, has some problems. And that's what you would expect to find. If the grade schools, middle schools, and high schools have problems, and those students are going on into the colleges, won't the colleges have problems? Isn't that the case? They're slow and inefficient. They don't educate very quick. It's easy to get into college. You don't need to know very much. Take those two factors together, that the public schools are slow and don't educate people very well, and the colleges have low standards, and a kid can get into college when he's 15 years old, 16 years old. Now, if you don't think he should go to college that early, then he's got an extra 2 years to go to a good private high school or whatever, a good preparatory school. So I wanted to tell you then about Lisa Van Dam. She opened a private school in Irvine, California, and it's having exactly the results that I'm talking about. That's where I learned about it. She opened the school, I believe, in 1998, but it might have been 96. It was in the late 90s. And she started with just 3 students, and the next year she had 5 students. Now today it's up to 100, or a little over 100, and they've got a waiting list. They've got great success, and they are sending kids to college as young as 15, 16 years old. There was one boy, Francisco I believe his name was, who was entering the 2nd year of his doctorate program when he was 19 or 20 years old. So now they're not geniuses, they're just taught well. And you can get, I've got here, The Role of Hierarchy in Education by Lisa Van Dam, where she talks about why it is that you have to give basic information first, and advanced or abstract information has to come later. And she talks about how that's ignored in all the homeschool curriculum systems that you can buy, and in the public schools and in the private schools. Hierarchy is ignored. Now, Reclaiming Education, the Homeschooling Alternative by Lisa Van Dam. This is where she talks about how the only way to get around the public school system is to educate your students at home, to take them out of the system, or put them in a good private school, but there's almost no good private schools to be had. And she talks about how you can have really mature, advanced students even though you've only got 5 students in a class, because it's not being with groups of other kids that makes a kid mature and sociable. It's maturity, which comes from what he knows and how he feels about himself, which comes from education. So, the homeschooling alternative. Next we have teaching values in the classroom. She talks there about the values of honesty and integrity and all those. How do you teach those to a kid? Now, some people go so far in their curriculum as to have the value of the day or the value of the week. This week our value is honesty. And next week it'll be productivity or whatever it is. Some other people think you shouldn't lecture a child on those things and just let them develop on their own and judge for themselves. And there are other methods of teaching values to children that people use. So how do we go about teaching values to children? And Lisa talks about the fact that children have to learn values, not from some abstract lecture, but from concrete reality. Now, here's what I mean by that. If you give them a lecture, a 45-minute lecture about Isaac Newton, you're doing the right thing if you teach them the right stuff. Because Isaac Newton had concrete experiences in reality with the people around him who opposed him and fought his theory, with the whole culture of Britain at the time. Isaac Newton had this relationship with the world around him, and it was a concrete, real relationship. And learning the concretes he dealt with by reading the letters to and from him and other people and learning his biography, by learning about Newton and how he dealt with those things, you learn the values he lived by.